So essentially, no code. I'll be talking a little bit about that, but the presentation here is mostly going to be around sort of how to build your startup, your app, and talking a little bit about sort of the step-by-step, so that when we jump into all these concepts afterwards and talk about building your technology, your app, your platform, you're going to have more context in terms of why we're doing this, what has to be done before, and what are the steps that we're following, because the steps are very easy. The issue is when we're trying to execute them in the right order and not waste time on non-priorities. So first of all, my name is Christian Peverelli. I was born in Switzerland, but grew up pretty much all over the world, in Brazil, Venezuela, France, Cyprus, Greece, Spain, etc. Speak a bunch of languages. I'm the founder of 3 startups. 2 of them I raised capital for. I had 1 exit. Another one I didn't raise capital for. I was mostly working with celebrities and Fortune 500 companies, helping them on innovation and bringing products to market. So on top of that, I was served as 3 years as the director of a startup accelerator program called Startup Boost in LA. So we trained over 100 startups who went on to raise more than $40 million and get into all these fancy investing accelerators. So here are a couple images. This was us at Google on the right, and on the left was basically we trained 8 teams over the period of 6 weeks, every 6 months. We would pick these 8 teams out of 400 applicants. And so I got to see a lot of deal flow go through that. And so I hope that you can learn a little bit from all the mistakes I've seen people take along the way. So let's take this process. Really, if we look at it from a bird's eye view, it really is just a couple of steps. The first one is setting the hypotheses. So essentially, I'll explain each one of these in a little bit more depth because I have slides for them after this, but let's just give you the step-by-step so we can see the bird's eye view here. After this, setting these hypotheses, kind of clarifying what your idea is, what we're going to want to do is jump into customer discovery. Customer discovery is a process of getting insight from customers to build things for them, instead of just building your idea, hoping people will use it afterwards. Step 3 would be building your market tests. So at WeAreNoCode, we leverage no-code tools to actually do this. But here, we really want to essentially see if what people are saying, the insight we got from these interviews, is going to be reflected with actions that people are willing to take. Because if not, we have to, essentially figure out what will make people click, because we're essentially building a business around customers. After that, what we're going to want to do is to promote this value proposition. So this is the build your market test is also a product solution fit test, where we're testing people's actions on like live, see if they would engage with an offer. So after that, we're going to want to promote it. Obviously, we want to set up tracking analytics so we can measure the way that people are interacting with our smoke test and how we can increase conversion on that front. That insight essentially gives us access to information that we need, which are usually going to be really stripping down all the features you had in your mind of the final product into what could be 1 or maximum 3 features that will essentially get people to buy. And then we'll build that MVP. Again, we leverage no-code platforms to do that. So we're mainly focused around sort of helping people who do not know how to program accomplish their goals of building companies, and then fulfilling, right? Once we've built the MVP, we can go ahead and fulfill. Let's break these down kind of step by step. So the first one, setting the hypothesis. This is really around the fact that there's high-risk hypotheses around every startup. In the case of Airbnb, some of the high-risk hypotheses were, for example, would a host be willing to rent their house out to a stranger? Obviously, if that hypothesis was proven correct, and we know that it was, that's great. If that did not work, Airbnb would have had to completely pivot the nature of their business. And so what we really want to do is really just determine which assumptions we have that are behind this idea or hypothesis, I like to call it, because at this point, it isn't really a business yet until you've proven your assumptions right or wrong. So you'll write those down, those key assumptions, and then what you want to do is to put each one to the test. So at first, we're going to test it by just talking to humans and see what they are saying about this. So we're going to go into customer discoveries. You want to write a very specific sort of interview here, and you want to also interview customers who are actually outside of your friend zone, let's say, because you'll get great feedback from those people, but it's not going to be valuable in building a business around a specific customer segment. Of course, there can be exceptions to that. But essentially what you want to understand is, do my assumptions align with what people are saying if I'm not talking about my product? So the idea here is you're not talking about your product, and you're literally bringing people through the process of talking to you about this area of their life where you think you have a solution to a problem you believe they have. You have to find out whether or not that's coming out naturally. And if it's not, you're going to want to fine tune that interview to essentially reflect getting answers to these questions that you have. And of course, there's, setting up the interview, also taking notes, and then how you can, you want to kind of take a scientific approach to the way that you are, analyzing that data. So, and also make sure that you're essentially talking to a specific segment of people. If you're just speaking to a bunch of people, you need to kind of determine who the different customer segments are. After that, so after you've got an insight, you understand kind of what people want from this product. We're going to act like we've built the entire thing already. And so that's really what building this first test is. It's like just to test if whether people are willing to take the action that proves that you have a business behind this. So we're building this as a smoke test. We're essentially acting like we've built, we've understood, we've built this entire company, that all the software is figured out, everything's great. And we're going to see whether people are actually clicking on our call to action. So in a smoke test, you're always going to be testing one specific thing, and that thing should be as close to validation as possible. The best validator is revenue, but if you can't get revenue, you could do pre-sales. If you can't do pre-sales, you could do a number of other tests. And of course, depending on the way you're planning on monetizing this, there will be more than one test to do. So, you want to essentially build a brand. You're going to want to write out the copy to make people understand the offer and the benefits that you're going to bring to them with this offer. And then you can actually go ahead and build it. After that, once we've built it, we're going to promote and measure. So once you've built the test, what you want to do is start acquiring users, and we're going to start engaging them. And the reason for that is because you need to nurture customers usually before, which means add value to their lives, make them understand what you do, and essentially how they're reacting to your specific offer. So that's an important part of the process. But essentially what this is going to do as well is it starts creating a pipeline of future customers, and that's going to be very useful once you are looking to build the MVP, because you want to get as much feedback from these people as possible, and you want to make sure that you are building things they're willing to pay for. So at this point, we're promoting it. After that, we're going to set up tracking and analytics. So you can see really click by click the way that people are using your, let's call it a smoke test. It's also kind of an extended landing page, usually where there is this call to action that's testing the demand. But you want to have an understanding of what's happening, right? You can't really manage what you can't measure, as they say. And after that, we're going to understand much better what customers actually want, because we'll have led conversations with these people, we'll have collected emails, we'll have a lot more data on what people want to pay for, and making sure we're targeting the right segment. Then we want to build an MVP, and essentially that MVP is only going to be the features sets that people say that they want.